So, a lot of people want my feedback on the Diddy trial. I'm gonna keep it brief because I only have 12 minutes left of recording time because I have to clear my space on this device and I'm not clearing too much. But first of all, shout out to these new zits I've accumulated over the past 2 days. I'm gonna put toothpaste on it. I noticed that when I get zits, I get it either here or here. So I don't know what the heck that is all about, but bah. Anywho, so gosh, this is such a terrible thing to talk about, and I'm just gonna say it plainly. I don't know Diddy personally. I did have an opportunity to speak to him when I was a teenager on the phone, him and Mace, when I used to hang with DJ Mr. C. Rest in peace, Calvin. Me and Mr. C were like this, super tight. I got to meet Biggie, I got to meet Kim before they blew up and became the mega celebrities that they became in their height of their career. I went to Brooklyn and I met them in Bedford-Stuyvesant long before all of that shit. Pardon my lingo, but it's just the truth. So I did have an opportunity to speak to Diddy on the phone, and I would imagine that if he were doing the things that he's accused of doing, that he likely had already begun it back then, because this was right before he got super mega popular. You know what I mean? He did have a couple of joints out, but this was right there at the brink of his entry into the industry, where he was really mega popular. And it was a brief conversation. I spoke to both of them on one call. They were together, I guess, at a studio. I don't know where they were at, but I was in Universal Records. I was in the record label, sitting there chilling with Calvin, because he worked there. And of course, hey Chuck D, I met Chuck D while I was there. You know, he's really cool dude. But anyway, I cannot elaborate and say that Diddy is the monster that people are calling him. I'm saying I don't like him if those things are true. Whether he's convicted of it in a court of law or got away with it in a court of law, if he knows within himself that those things are true, even the smallest things, I don't like him. Number one, I don't like abusers, whether they're women abusers, drug abusers, whatever. I don't like that, because you are deliberately hurting yourself and or others. I don't like that. And that means that unless you are the type of person who's honest and upfront, I don't like you. If you could come out and be honest and clear and say, yes, I've done these things, or yes, I do those things, I look at you way differently, because it takes a different kind of strength and different kind of love for yourself to be able to admit to who you actually are. So anyway, I really didn't follow the story much. What caught my attention, of course, was when Cassie video surfaced and everybody was like, "Oh, she's about to take him to court and all this other stuff," and I was just like, "Ooh!" I was like, "That's bad," you know. That's bad, you know, that, you know, a person, you not only are accused of abusing, but you got footage. Now, there's lots of people who have experienced alleged abuse from him and his affiliates or whomever. So maybe they're not willing to come forward because maybe they're scared for their life. Maybe they have been so traumatized by it that they don't want to really revisit it. And I could tell y'all, because I'm a person that deals with a whole lot of trauma, and I'm a person that is a serial domestic violence survivor. I've been through lots of it. So I can tell you firsthand that when you're going through things like that, you really don't want to talk about it. You really don't want to revisit it. You really don't want nobody trying to guilt trip you and make you feel like it's your fault that somebody else ain't wrapped too tight in their head. You understand what I'm saying? But it's also a humiliating thing to go through. It debilitates your mind. It is a whole healing process, and some people take longer to heal, and for some people, not talking about it is how they heal. So there may be people, and then you got to understand, y'all are talking about alleged date rape drug being used, sedatives allegedly being used. If date rape job and sedatives have been used, then a lot of these victims might not even remember or have any acknowledgement that these things could have even happened to them. So unfortunately, it's not really something that the public can elaborate on, because we really don't know all the fine details. And the verdict that the jury picked, I think as far as the jury is concerned, I think that y'all are bad people, because, you know, first it was all the last four things was guilty, and then when the RICO wasn't, then all of a sudden it flipped to this weird outcome. And I'm just like, how do you flip like that out of nowhere in such a short time? It was a matter of hours, and then you all of a sudden, oh yeah, blah, 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 blah. Again, like I said, because of who he is and because of the extent of, I would say, power that he has, knowing certain people with money, people with who will back him up. You know, everybody got a friend who, no matter how much wrong you do, gonna be like, nah, they wouldn't do that. Everybody has a friend like that. Everyone. A mother, a father, a sister, a brother, a cousin, an auntie, an uncle, a friend, somebody, a business partner. There is everybody who has at least one person who, no matter what you do, will be like, not them, even if they know you've done it. So I'm not saying he did it. I'm saying he definitely beat on Cassie, because we saw the video. So that's true without shadow of doubt. All of the other accounts that she gave, I can't say yes or no, and I definitely don't want to belittle her and say, girl, you just making it up for clout chasing like everyone else is trying to say, because that's not right. It's not right that you guys were not there. You were not in that environment to see or experience nothing, to be accusing her of being something that she may not even be, that might not even really be her character. Another thing that is really not being approached is the fact that addiction was involved. Diddy admitted that he was using certain types of drugs. She admitted it. So you have to understand, when addiction is involved, the mind moves way differently than a solid mind that is moving in its normal frame of thought. So you have to understand that when a person is under the influence of drugs and or alcohol, they have an accelerated behavioral pattern. I personally believe that people just behave the way that they've always wanted to behave, just more carelessly. But people are going to say, oh no, it's the drugs, it makes you hallucinate and things like that. And I'm like, yeah, to an effect. But prior to that, most people are behaving at the rate that they want to behave at. Another thing that is not being looked at is domestic violence. And I say this a lot because I advocate for people who have been through it, who are survivors, the families of victims who never get a chance to speak what happened to them and things like that, who never made it through. I advocate for them because of the simple fact that domestic violence is constantly swept under the rug. People don't want to talk about it. People always want to blame the victim and say, oh, you should have just left. I hate when I meet people and they're like, oh, never would happen to me, or I would never let nobody do nothing like that to me. Stop it. Because abuse happens to everyone. There is not a person on earth who has not experienced abuse. Okay, maybe you don't experience to the extent of a person in domestic violence level, but everyone experiences abuse, because abuse is name calling. Abuse is someone telling lies about you. Abuse is someone deceiving you. Abuse comes in many forms. People using you for money and things like that. Abuse comes in so many forms. So nobody could sit around and say, oh, I would never. Because the minute you do that, you turn yourself into a blatant fool. And a lot of people, they do try to guilt shame victims by saying, oh, you shouldn't have stayed, or you have people you could turn to. You haven't been through a cycle of abuse, you can't speak on it. If you haven't been through a cycle of abuse, you can't speak on it, because the cycle of abuse is not like that. Many abusers' new thing to do is say, oh, especially if it's a guy to a girl, and sometimes now the girls to the guys, oh, I fight with my siblings, it's like fighting my sibling. And guys be like, oh, it's like fighting my sister. If you grew up in a household where your parents or the people raising you allow you to put your hands on your sister or any female in your house, that's the problem right there. You were already in a dysfunctional environment. That's dysfunctional. And so that's the problem. A lot of people grow up and they have sibling rivalry, and then you can't equate sibling rivalry to a romantic relationship. The number one reason why people abuse people, whether physically or in any other way, shape, form, or fashion, is because of one of two things. Either one, they have done something and they want to keep that person quiet, or two, they intend to do something and they want to scare that person so that they will keep quiet. That's the only reason for abuse. Keep that in mind. Understand that. See, they don't let me come and speak at these forums and stuff, but I'll create my own forum. You know what I mean? I'm almost at 12 minutes. I said I wasn't going to do it.
Oops, I kind of told a little fib.
Not Shantae. Yeah, I'm going to speak till 12 minutes then, because I only have two. Oh, I'm at 11, so let me tell y'all the rest. So those are the things that I just want to highlight. How do I feel about Diddy personally? I don't know him personally, so I don't speak on him personally. What I've seen, the information that has been allowed for us to see, is not all of the details that people in court, people who have testified for him, against him, or whatever. It's not the stuff we got to see. It might be public by now, I don't know. But at the end of the day, I do not agree to anybody. I don't care what accolades they have. I don't care what status they have in society or in their circles. If you do something wrong, you're wrong, period. There ain't no way around it. Right is right and wrong is wrong. So if he has done these things, that he's been accused of, that makes him an atrocious being. And I would never want him or anybody affiliated with him in my circle, because you wouldn't survive. You wouldn't survive being around me. You wouldn't. But at the end of the day, good luck. Whatever happens after, I'm not following up on it because I really don't care. But a lot of people want to know my input. That's my input. I really don't care. I really don't like people that do those things to other people. So I really try not to pay too much attention to it. If you or someone you know is in an abusive relationship, whether it's addiction or whatever the case may be, please speak up and speak out. Get help as fast as you can, because these people nowadays are tricky. They are crazy. Watch out for them.